What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the CoastUp podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and joining me as always is Mr. Mark Smith. So, you guys, we are so excited for today's episode featuring Peter Nielsen. So, not only has he overcome 2 near-death experiences, but he kept up his mental and physical strength to win more than 50 bodybuilding titles, be crowned Mr. International Universe, host syndicated radio and television shows. I mean, this guy is just on a mission to help as many people as he can. So, let's get to it. How's it going, everybody? You already heard the intro. You guys know what's happening today. We have the one, the only Peter Nielsen here with us today. Peter, thank you so much for your time, for being here.
It's great to be here and to share.
Yeah, and it's so funny too. You know, we've been reaching out to people, and we had this idea for a podcast, and we're like, you know what, let's just start reaching out. Let's start contacting people. Let's get people that we admire on here, and just hear what makes them tick, and hear what's helped their businesses to grow. And we reached out to Peter, and it just worked out so well. Like picked up so quick, and we're just super appreciative. So I think we should just dive right in here. I was going to see if you could sort of share with our audience just your story. Where'd you start? What were some obstacles that you had, and where you're at now?
You know, and especially during coming out of this pandemic, it's like, there's 2 types of people. There's the people that are going to be paralyzed in this moment, become the victim, and be jaded and desensitized. Or there's going to be the people that are going to grow and learn and know that our Creator adjusted our moral compass, so to speak, so that we could refocus and reboot and truly reprioritize. And my life started with a physical challenge. So I was born with, a uncurable condition. So during this time, I really respect and I attracted to the spirit of a human that has been through a storm and still has the courage to get up and to give it one more day, to trust again, to forgive again, to love again. So when I was born, I was always sick. I was missing a lot of school. And then when I was 15, everything came to a head. I went from 135 pounds down to 86 pounds and was put in the hospital supposedly for just a weekend of tests. And I went to 2.5 months in the hospital.
Wow.
And in that time, that's when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And I had a near-death experience where I went into septic shock, and they did emergency surgery. And I lost a foot of my ileum, my small intestines. We didn't even know what Crohn's disease was, nor did we know how to spell it. But fear, especially during this time, people need to understand that fear channeled wrong turns into a second-hand emotion called anger. No one wants to be angry, but what happens is when you don't know certain things, you then kind of overreact out of fear. And my dad was getting very nervous that his son was in the process of dying, and he started to drink. And then he became a raging alcoholic. He was such a loving man, and you put this alcohol in him, and he turned into a demon, a monster. And one of the last experiences I had was my dad was trying to take my mom out, on a Sunday afternoon in Brooklyn, New York, in an apartment building. Come from a very poor family. I didn't know that until I left Brooklyn. But that day, I had to go into a fight or flight because my dad was strangling my mom with a telephone cord, and I heard her gurgle. And my sister ran out of the apartment to call the police. And so here I go against this man that I love more than the oxygen that I breathe. And Danish man, stands 6'3", 210 pounds. And I got him off of my mother. She came to. She ran out. He turned around. He says, "Was that your best shot?" And I wasn't as fortunate to get out of that room. And my buckle strap got hooked onto the drawers. And my dad broke my collarbone in 3 places, gave me 6 stitches over my eye, knocked me unconscious. But, I would say that the reason why I'm reciting that is he beat a part of my spirit away. I became a lone wolf. Once I came out of the hospital and my dad went to jail for a short period of time, my mom didn't want to press charges, the typical co-enabler. And, so I didn't feel like I had a safe space. I felt as though that I was born with an incurable disease. It was all my fault. So if I wasn't here, then my mom and dad wouldn't be arguing. That wouldn't have happened that Sunday. So, the only entry point that the enemy, and I believe there's an enemy, could get in is in your ear. So, here my dad was calling me a mistake, a loser, an inconvenience. We don't have the money for these medical bills. So I went to the Verrazano Bridge on a cold January evening, 2:00 in the morning, and I basically, was screaming to the heavens, to a God I didn't believe in, and I basically started seeing with a razor blade the blood dripping down to the grass. And then I just, I thought I was too cowardly, and I threw it into the Hudson River that opens up to the Atlantic Ocean. And that was where my journey started. That was where I believe that something stopped me at that moment to give it one more day, one more chance. Mm-hmm. So I've always been the underdog, and I always root for the underdog. And then the disease went into remission. And, and here I was, 15, 16 years old, and I was working out with weights down in my grandmother's basement. And there was a clothesline with bras and underwears and people's clothes and garbage pails, and I'm pumping iron. But I had a dream, and I believed that there was something better than where I was. And I held on to that every day, that hope. And then the disease went into remission. I started learning about what to eat. I ended up winning 50 bodybuilding titles, Mr. America 5 times, Mr. Universe twice. Wow. So what I say, and Henry Ford here from Michigan says it best, if you say you can or can't, you're right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what we speak, we prophesize good or bad. What we focus on this morning is how we live today. So, here we are coming out of this pandemic. Hopefully we'll be opened up in the next few weeks, but we will never, ever, ever go back to normal. There will be a new normal. Mm-hmm. So the life that I had, I believe in the very beginning, was my rocket fuel. And I ask everyone that's listening or watching, what's your rocket fuel? Some of the best people that I've ever met in my life have had the worst disasters. I mean, you could even go back to biblical times, whether it was King David, who was a train wreck, or Paul, who was a hater. All these different people were used by our Creator if we get out of our own way. Mm-hmm. If we get full of ourselves. So, my life has been more than I can ever imagine, but I needed to surrender the ego, the pride, the anger. I'm an author of 6 books, and the last book is Soul Strength. And, it has very little to do with workout programs, supersets, or nutrition. It has to do with, if you cannot be strong with your flesh, with your soul, then I don't care if you have the opportunity to work with the best CEOs. I don't care if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You will be what I call a fallen angel. And I can name a few. Mike Tyson, I could go down the line of just some of the best golfer of all times. He had a hiccup, so all these things, we are human. But if we get out of our own way, if we get full of ourselves, if we surrender, we're going to be either catapulted through that fire or over it. I chose to surrender to get a softer heart. And now, the crazy thing is that the beautiful thing about our Creator, in my opinion, and my faith, is that if we get out of our own way, everything that we've ever wanted to learn God will allow us to teach. And what I'll say to you is that I can't listen to someone on stage. I can't read a book. I can't even listen to a doctor. If a doctor's telling me how I'm supposed to feel having Crohn's disease and he doesn't have it, doesn't make sense. If someone's talking to me about a war and they haven't been in it, I lose them. Right. If someone's trying to give me marriage counseling and they're basically divorced 5 times, who's going to listen to them? And the health clubs, I've had 7 throughout the country. And it's like, who's going to listen to a personal trainer who's morbidly obese? Now, don't get me wrong. I love people of all different scenarios, but you need to be the product of the product. You need to be the walking billboard. So if you want to have a good marriage, you need to live it. If you want to be a good parent, you need to live it, because your kids are going to be looking at you like a TV instead of listening to what my kids know. That I talk well, I talk for a living, but they watch their father on how he lives his life. And that is where I'm at today. And that's why I think it's so important what you guys are doing, is to truly love on people, because if we are just counting on ourselves, we're going to be climbing out of our skin. If we're going to just think that, you know, our business is going to go under, I can't pay my bills, I'm the dog chasing the car, I'm going to go into bankruptcy, I'm stressed out of my gills, I'm going back to my addiction, me and my wife are going to get divorced. Guess what? You're going to. But if you surrender that and you get on full of yourself, I believe, this is just my, you know, my standpoint, but I believe it's not all the preparing that we do in life, because I'm a CEO, I'm a type A, I'm an alpha male, so I love to control things. but the best scenario is God surprises. He knew long ago that this pandemic was going to happen. And this pandemic, what it did was it truly changed the altar of our route. And just maybe we were going in the wrong direction. Just maybe we needed to undo, get shaken up, be relocated to a place that we're supposed to be. So I challenge each and every one of you today, maybe you're in that place that you're supposed to be.
Wow. And it's the voice too. Right? You were absolutely right when you said, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right. What do you do every night before you go to bed? What do you do every morning when you get up where you have that positive voice that makes you say, I'm going to do this?
Great question. Everything that happened to me in my life, and I'm going to just share this real quickly, but everyone that's watching or listening, all the lowlights of your life, and for me, 2 near-death experiences. I mean, the last one happened 15 years ago at William Beaumont Hospital. Middle of the night, my heart stops. I'm gone for minutes.
Wow.
Defibrillators put on me 5 times, not once. 8-hour surgery, 4 days in an induced coma because the Crohn's came back and it perforated a hole in my ileum. My point is that all those times in my life, betrayal from marriage, different people hurting me, my childhood being physically abused by my dad, being broken up to that point, those are all reference points on what I don't want to be like and what I don't want to do. That doesn't define me. So your mistakes do not define you. But they're reference points, and you should use them as rocket fuel. Do you know that I have never hit a woman? I have never hit my children. 2 married daughters now, amazing godly men they're married to. My younger daughter, who lives in Florida, made me a grandfather 2 years ago to Thea. My point is this, is that I used all those lowlights, and you should too, not to feel sorry for myself, but to learn. All the growth is in the valley. It's not on the mountaintops. It was the journey becoming Mr. America. It wasn't lifting this trophy in the air. It wasn't lifting this. This was the fringe benefit of it. It was the work, the sweat equity, me having to believe that I can, me having to believe that the promise that God burnt in my heart was going to come to fruition. And that's where we all need to be right now. Yes. So if your business is hurting right now, if your marriage is in disarray, the beautiful thing is that we get another 86,400 seconds called one day to do it better than tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So to kind of answer your question, every day I get up, before I put my feet on the ground, I do something which I recommend. I challenge each and every one of you tomorrow, is for just 10 minutes. I don't care what your faith is. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care what your belief system is. For 10 minutes, just think of all the wonderful things that are in your life and be grateful for.
Yeah.
The roof over your head, your health, your family, your furry friends, your job, the car in your driveway, whatever the case is, the sun that's shining, the eyes that you can see, because there is no way, and this is not just me saying it, this is medical science saying it, there's no way that you could have anxiety, that you could be depressed, that you could be ticked off with anger and have gratitude in the same mindset. It's impossible. So if you fill your brain with gratitude, the anger, the fear, the depression is going to flee. It's so simple, because then as you get out of your bed and you walk into the kitchen, to whether it's take your vitamins or make a cup of coffee or tea or your breakfast, that's what's going to be in the front part of your brain. And that's how you need to live. And then the other thing that I recommend everyone, even before you go to bed, regardless on how, every day I fall short on living in Him, every day. So it's like, I try to do my best, but there's always room for improvement. So as I'm going to bed, instead of beating myself up, which most of us do at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, I screwed up on that conference call, or I blew that interview.
He's reading my mind right now.
Or I was totally stupid at the grocery store when that person got in front of me. I should have just bit the side of my mouth, but I overreacted. What you need to do, and what I do in that standpoint, and I don't do it in a narcissistic way or in an ego way, but it's like, we are beautifully, wonderfully made. And when I go to bed, not only am I thanking God for that day, and I'm asking maybe for forgiveness on me being a schmo during the day, but the last things that I'm saying is that tomorrow I'm going to win. I'm going to be victorious. I'm going to be healthy. It's going to be a great day. The best is yet to come. I'm going to do better as a husband. I'm going to do better as a father. I'm going to be better as a CEO. When you go to sleep like that, it gives you hope.
Yeah.
And in my world, hope means having optimum positive emotions about something that seems nearly impossible. And without hope, you can't have faith. And as long as you have breath, you have hope. So hope to me is very, very important, because when someone becomes hopeless is when the walls start caving in. So, it's very, very important for people to fill themselves up. Being a believer, I always say that, allow God to speak life into you. But let's take it one step further. Regardless of your faith, what did I say before? Words create life or death. Speak life into yourself. I am worthy. I am victorious. I am a winner. Tomorrow's going to be my best day. I'm going to meet the love of my life. I'm going to be financially successful. I'm going to beat this cancer. When you start doing that, all your cells in your body are saying, yes, they're rooting for you. When you lose the spirit of life is the beginning of death.
And that's so. I guess, man, I could have 1,000 questions. If I could keep you here for 3 hours for a podcast, I would. But I promised you that we would have you in time for your next commitment. But So I'm thinking here as someone who is, a small business owner, or somebody maybe who's out there who hasn't started their business yet. You were talking about how fear and those negative thoughts that can tie someone down so much, but instead using those as rocket fuel to boost your business up. So what would you say then to someone who right now, whether it's due to COVID, whether it's due to self-doubt, what would you say to someone who's ready to give up on their business, and what's the next step that they can take beyond even just positivity and speaking life into a situation, that they can really start to plant those techniques into their business and into their life as a whole, but really help them grow there?
What you're saying is just making me think on something that really has happened just a month ago. And, we were supposed to have a convention. I started, it's a whole nother story, but I started where I got into a business. I have my TV show, my radio show. I've had my health clubs, been very successful. I came to town with $600 in my pocket in 1985 from Brooklyn, New York. I was doing an appearance as Mr. Universe in Florida. I met a woman that was 16 years older than I. I ended up having a long-term relationship, moved to Michigan. We broke up, and people say, well, why are you in Michigan? I said, I came here for a woman, I said, but I stayed because it was an amazing opportunity. I love Michigan. I live on 2 acres on a lake, and it allows me to give him enough time to fill my cup up and do it again. So long story short is going back in 2012, I had some people from my health clubs, and one guy, he said, I'll meet Starbucks. So I said, okay, meet me by 96. He says, that's too far. And I'm saying to myself, I'm on the phone, and I'm saying, I'm going to hire him. He's telling me it's too far. I'm going to blow him off the phone.
Right.
And God just said, shh, I bit the side of my mouth. And he's like, yeah, what about if we meet at the one in Milford, in town? Like, in town, it's 8 miles closer to me. Again, I almost just blew up, and I said, okay. I got off the phone, and I said to myself, there's like a 70% chance I'm not going to hire this guy.
Maybe higher. Yeah.
I was like, no way. So I go to the Starbucks, and there's about 7 people. We're sitting down, and I'm there. I've never been in that Starbucks. So I'm like, okay, I'm here. And this guy, almost 7 foot tall, comes in, and he looks at me, and he gives me like a stare, like as he's walking. And story has it, he went into the restroom. He washed his face because he was talking to his wife over breakfast saying, you know something? There's this public company in Houston, Texas. We're looking for someone that really can help them grow. And he says, Peter Nielsen would be great, but I know he lives in Michigan, but I just don't know where to find him. 45 minutes later, boom.
Here he is.
So I'm telling you, there's no such thing as, coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. So this guy, he comes back, he stops. I knew he wanted to say something. He just gives me his card politely, and he says, I really want to talk to you. He says, we've been talking about you this morning over breakfast with my wife. I met him a week later. He emailed me that evening. Long story short, I ended up going out to Houston 3 weeks later, and for 2 days, we just talked about mission statement, their dreams. It's a Christian company, a wellness company, selling supplements called Zervita. And they were losing over $367,000 a month. So I ended up going with a friend, and we got on the plane coming back to Detroit, and he said to me, you're not going to get involved with this company. He says, at this point in your career. I looked at him, and I got literally teary-eyed, and I was like, Paul, and he was a pastor, Paul Bershey, love him to death, like my spiritual dad. He's like 83 now. And I said, Paul, I feel God is calling me to help this company. He looks at me and then he gives me a smile. And the company was losing over $300,000 a month. I had this vision on putting together a transformation system and basically building a community, maybe having a coach, never thinking I was going to be the coach, having a 90-day challenge. We started with our first convention. We had 180 people. I was like, wow, 180 people. And now we're seeing 10, 12,000 people, and we're doing over $14 million a month. So God is good. And when you don't want to go to a party, or when you don't want to do something, and you have, some people call it your gut, some people call it your intuition, I call it your spirit. It will never, ever lie. Go. Because it changed the course of my life. It increased the platform that God has entrusted me with. We're in 5 countries, and life is just amazing. So, it's so very, very important to do that. But for the people that are going through what they're going through right now, what I say to each and every one of you is, we were supposed to have a convention with 8,000 people 2 months ago. We had to cancel. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're saying to ourselves, how are we going to survive? And this is the message that I think everyone needs to hear. I did have fear, but I did turn that into, just rocket fuel. And what I did with all my partners and with everybody in Houston, I never did a Zoom up until 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Ever. It's like a Zoom. What's a Zoom? I don't even know what it is. I mean, zooming around, So we made everything virtual. And in the month of March, our business went up instead of down. Where people were on unemployment, we were selling more product because we're in the wellness business. And here we have products that could help strengthen your autoimmune system. And it was just our mindset. There's nothing more powerful than a changed mind. You could change everything on the outside. You could change your hairstyle, your address, your occupation. Some people get so ridiculous, they change their spouse over and over, thinking that things are going to change. You need to change your thought process, your mindset on the inside. You change your mind, you're going to get literally your mind out of the gutter, your family, your finances, your health out of the gutter. So everyone needs to get creative. You need to get out of your comfort zone right now, and you need to ask yourself a question. I will say this with humility. I live a great lifestyle. I want to keep it. I'm not materialistic, but there's one thing about owning $1 million or a $2 million house. It's another thing to maintain it. And when you get into areas like this, if you don't get creative, you will be the dog chasing the car. You will not be able to sell as quick as you need to downsize. So the rocket fuel that I have every day is nobody is going to take what I've worked so hard for away from me, other than me. If I want to feel sorry for myself and stay in bed and say to myself, this sucks, I can't make this work, then there's no one to blame but me. But I'm telling you right now, this is when you need to put the pedal to the metal. This is when you really need to see what you're made of. This is when you need to get as many positive people around you as possible. I'm telling you right now, people call me Zorro. If people start talking garbage, I cut them right out. Not because I don't love them or respect them. I will love them and pray for them on the sidelines, but don't get in my space and try to dim my light. Do not do that. Nice. Because we all run out of runway. And right now, it's like every day is an essence. It's like, I'm in my mid-50s, and it's like, if I have another 15 or 25 or 30 years, that's awesome. So I want to leave this planet Earth when I take my last breath with not an ounce or a cell of ability to do anything more. I do not want to leave anything on the table. And right now is not the time to feel sorry for yourself, to be stressed out. Use that stress to work out or to brainstorm and whiteboard what your next step is, because your business will forever be different.
Yeah. Well, and for a lot of people too, I think a lot of people are in this boat of they're trying to start something. It was so funny. Mark and I have talked for so long because I've always done video editing. I've always done filmmaking, content creation, but I had a lot of trouble really taking the leap. And then late last year, I was like, all right, well, I'll get the LLC, I'll make it official, quote unquote. And I would talk to Mark, once a week. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't know if I have what it takes to really make it work. But I think that, whether you're a spiritual person or not, and there's going to be something that comes along and pushes you in one direction or the other. And you have to be able to roll with that and to make the most out of it. In this case, nobody in the entire world is saying that COVID was a good thing or is a good thing. Right. But we can, and if you are a person of faith, the Bible's saying God is using everything that, he's using everything for good. And so my thought process then became, okay, well, if this COVID thing is bad and this COVID thing is making, I kind of lost 2 jobs due to COVID, because I quit one place to go work for another. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to start there due to COVID. And this was over a month ago now. And talking to Mark about it more, and I was like, you know what? I guess now's the saying now's the time to make that push then. And so I encourage you, whoever's listening, if that's where you're at in your business and you're not sure if it's the right time to take the risk, why not take the risk now? Take the leap while you can.
Yeah. While you're saying that, what comes to my mind and what I just spoke on another show about was we have 2 choices. And everybody does. We're either going to come out of this worse and go maybe back to our old set ways. For some people, they're going to go further away from their faith, and they're going to go back to possibly addictions or bad habits. Or you're going to go the other way, and you're going to basically be better, and you're going to get a softer heart. You're going to be more open-minded. You're just going to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
I choose to be a better version of myself. And on the word choose, I do, believe it or not, it's like I do, coaching and counseling, and I do even marriage counseling and couples counseling. And when someone tells me, I fell in love with her and I'm just now, and they lose me, because love is more, and I'm using love as just an analogy, but it's with anything. Love is more than just a feeling. It's a choice. So when you choose this person and this other person chooses you, that's why they call marriage not an agreement where it's services rendered, and if services aren't rendered, it's null and void, like in a business contract. There's something, a little word called covenant. And that means there is no plan B. Failure is not an option, because I chose you in good, in bad, and different. Now, if you use that in taking care of your own body and working out, if you use that word covenant in your business, you're not going to fail.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to give up. There's no way. Do you know how easy it was for me to crawl in a corner and be in like just in a fetus position? And when I had such pain that I didn't want to be here anymore with the Crohn's, or when I was at the top of my game in the second go around 15 years ago, I went from 199 pounds down to 148 pounds. I looked like Pee Wee Herman instead of Mr. Universe. And it was so easy to be mind screwed, to say like, your best is behind you. You're a has-been. You can't do this again. And don't get me wrong, it was hard, because I started feeling sorry for myself. And you could look at people right now. You may have been through the recession of 05, 07. You may have built your business back. You may be 60 years old and you're saying, I'm tired of being tired. This sucks. I don't want to do this again. The choice is yours. You could either walk away from it and not have the legacy that you deserve, or you can roll up your sleeves and saying, nobody, no virus, nothing is going to take this away from me and the blessings that are coming upon my family because of this.
Yeah.
So that's where the spirit, that's where the hope, that's where the believe again needs to click in. Because, you know, I won Mr. America to a song, and this is an interesting quick story, to a song called Eye of the Tiger. And I ended up basically trademarking Eye of the Tiger. And I got into a lawsuit with who else but Sylvester Stallone, because his brother, his brother basically wrote the song in Survivor. And anybody that wore Eye of the Tiger for over 20 years around the world, they needed to pay me if they were going to put that on their shirt or on their vitamins. So my health clubs were called, in the early days, Peter Nielsen, Eye of the Tiger. Sylvester Stallone and I are good friends, and everything worked out. And if we see each other, he'll put me in a headlock and he'll make believe he's hitting
That's
me.
a lifelong dream of mine you're talking about here, Peter. Come on.
But that's how things happen. But I remember my attorney, Mark Cantor from Brooks and Cushman in Southfield. He said to me, he says, Peter, why would you want to trademark Peter's Principles or Eye of the Tiger? You're not even on TV. I says, I'm going to be on TV. He says, but even if you're on TV, you're on local WDIV. Why would you? No, I says, I am going to syndicate my show. He says, you don't even have a show. You're on for 2 minutes. Well, those 2 minutes ended up being on the Today Show for 15 years. Yep. And those 15 years ended up getting me into 110 countries. And now on Discovery every week. And we just signed a deal with CBS, which we're in Michigan every Mondays at 7:30. You got to believe your own stuff. Yeah. If you don't believe in yourself, who the heck is going to believe in you? Yeah. If you don't live it and you don't walk it, who is going to buy your stuff from your business? Yeah. If you don't have the confidence, I could walk into a room and look at 10 people. I could tell if they're dark, meaning if they're sad and closed, if they're angry. I could tell if they're really, really interested in helping me, or if they love their business, or if they're just doing it for a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And all I can say is that think about that for a moment. Every meeting, every suit, every dress that you put on, every time that you get into a car to go to your meeting, you better have your shoulders back, your chest out. And when you walk into that meeting, game on. Because if you're going to meet someone like me, I'm going to look straight through that suit into your eyes to see if you have that eye of the tiger, that passion, that determination that I want to connect with. If not, man, competition is all over the place. Oh, yeah. I want someone that believes in their own stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need it.
Wow. So there's
we got to play Eye of the Tiger.
We're going to get that playing the whole time, but rest assured. No. But so we're approaching the end of our time here. So before we get going, and you've mentioned a couple of quotes already today that have been incredible, but are there any quotes that you just really live by, or any books that you would maybe point people to that just really help to push you and to push your business?
Because I'm an author, Soul Strength is an amazing book that it talks about, in my last book, many people fail, in my opinion, because of invisible obstacles. Some of those invisible obstacles is if you get hurt, you never forgive again. If you get hurt, you never trust again. If you get hurt, you never love again. You start medicating yourself with food and stuff. So Soul Strength goes through all of those invisible obstacles to help a person be the best version of themselves. A good workout book is called Will of Iron. And then I'm a big John Maxwell fan. He's a friend of mine. And, he's got a lot of great material out there as well. But it's like when you say about quotes, there's so many that every one of my half-hour shows has one of my quotes, and one of them is, if you don't believe in yourself, who will,
Mm-hmm.
And another one
killer.
is don't let any man or woman, tear you apart when God literally puts you back together. It's like, I don't have to answer, nor do I care about criticism when a man or a woman says something, because 50% of the times it's either they want to be like you or they just don't like you. Mm-hmm. And who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Really, with all due respect, I mean, I respect everybody, but run your own race, stay in your own lane. Mm-hmm. The moment that you want to be someone else is the moment that you go off track into the weeds, because God made you, you're a masterpiece, you're original, you're one of a kind, and that's the way you need to rock and roll.
Wow. Amazing. Incredible stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Nielsen. Thank you, Peter, so much for being on the show today. And the one last thing before we go is, where can people reach you? Where can they find you and all your stuff?
Great. My website is peternielsen.com, or on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, it's Peter, middle initial N, Nielsen. God bless everybody, and just move forward, say you can, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the CoastUp podcast. We hope you liked what you heard. Make sure you guys check out Peter Nielsen. He's got a lot of awesome things going on. And make sure you check us out. We're on Instagram at CoastUp Digital. We just got our YouTube up and running with the video for this episode as well. We would love it if you would share this with your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we just love you guys, and we'll see you next week.